Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge World Championship episode 11. That's right, I'm back. I'm your host, Chris. As you can see, I am back tonight on my own. Kahuna is not here. He did stand in for me yesterday on the Survivor 44 coverage, and then he's not so well. So overnight, he's not feeling well. But I listened in on that coverage, and I think he did a really good job. So, hats off to Kahuna for stepping in on a last minute there for us and doing that coverage. So this is going to be a little bit different. I haven't really been doing solo lives on any of the shows this season, but it means that there's going to be more time for me to talk to you, the audience. Let me know if everything is sounding good with the audio, because normally I have so I can bounce off to tell me if my audio is working. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I'm seeing some comments come in, so I feel like you guys can hear me pretty good. Lovable Nikki, welcome back to the live stream here, says that this is a spoiler-free chat. Please be respectful and do not spam the chat. Thanks, Lovable Nikki. Yeah, we do like to keep it spoiler-free. I know that everybody is really excited because we've got All-Stars 4 coming up pretty soon. There's a lot of USA 2 spoilers that are floating about. I'm doing my best to stay off the internet as much as I can, so I can stay spoiler free for that season. I really do not want to know what's going to happen before it actually ends up happening. Chris, welcome back as well. Oh, thank you so much. I thought both the boys, Kahuna and Jake, did a really good job yesterday in covering, but it's obviously good to be back. I'm a little bit jet lagged, I'm not going to lie. I was in the live with Drew's Bakery before this, and that kind of kept me going because when you've flown from New Zealand to the United States, you've got to get used to all the time differences and things like that. And that has hit me a little bit, but I think I should be okay for this live, especially because I'm going to be talking about this episode, and there's a lot to talk about. There's a few things that I really enjoyed from this episode. Cass Wash, welcome back. Ryan, welcome back. Danica, welcome back as well. Kahuna did tell me it's Danica. I've been getting it wrong the whole time. Thank you for being tolerant with me. I do that quite a bit. Yeah, it's not a bad looking hotel room. It's got a very old school kind of look to it, I think. Dolores saying, hi Chris, Guna and Jake did fabulous. I agree. Yeah, I did listen into that. I went back and listened to the whole thing. Yeah, so much good feedback for Kahuna. I think he was really stressed doing the live, sort of having to host it, because it is very different when you're like the main person that is hosting it compared to when you're the second person on it, because you've got so much more that's going on. You're trying to drive the conversation and make it entertaining while reading the chat. And I think that, when you're doing that, it can be quite daunting if you've never done it before. But, Kahuna is an absolute legend. I know he's going to be really good at that in the future as well. We've got the $1 Million Island Australia that we're going to be covering here on the channel, and Kahuna will be hosting that. And last night was just a good practice run for him, which I know he would have enjoyed that. Audio is good. That's good to know. Lovable Nikki, thank you so much, because being on the move at the moment, I've got a different mic, different setup, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Danica says, so I guess you know how to say my name now. Yes. Yeah, Kahuna's told me. Chris said we can hear you. That's good. Asia, welcome back to the live. Some static, however, can hear you very clear. Some static, that's not good. Don't know if I can fix that on the spot. Angel Cake, welcome here to the live as well. Kahuna saying, really sorry to ditch you today. I'm in bed shivering with fever. That's okay. You'll be fine next time. We'll hopefully have you back for the power rankings, Kahuna. Good job last night as well. Who else do we have here? We're going to say Drew Angel Cake in the chat. Yes. Even Angel Cake is saying, Kahuna, I hope you get better soon. And Joanne saying, hey, long time no see, Angel Cake. We've just been in his bakery as well. So yeah, let's get into this episode. I personally, I just came off the live with Drew and that, and Drew's been saying, he's so grateful that the season is almost over. And for me personally, I'm on the other side of this. I've enjoyed this season, and I think I've got rose glass, maybe like tinted rose glasses on, or what's the saying for that? Where I'm looking at it from the aspect that, I've been enjoying what Danny and Sarah and the newbies have brought to the show. I think that the MVPs have made the show very interesting this season, because they weren't just listening to the vets throughout the season. And I think that that's something that we're lacking in the main show sometimes. And it's been good to see them stand on their own feet this season for me personally. So I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed where it's gone. But I do also see that there has been some times where I feel like the edit maybe hasn't reflected too well on the legends, and they haven't really hidden like the bad aspects of some of these legends game as well. We weeks ago, I was praising Jordan for his growth, and then he had a really bad episode where it showed he still had that tendencies of trying to have things his way, being a little bit, it's my way or the highway with Kaz. And early in this episode, we get a little bit more of that relationship between Kaz and also Jordan. And, Kaz telling him how she feels and the way he communicates with her. Sometimes she doesn't feel like she's an equal partner in this duo. And it really gives Jordan an opportunity to reflect. And this is why I do like Jordan. And when I look at it, sometimes we as fans, we can be very quick to say, this person, they've done one thing wrong, they've wronged me. I'm no longer a fan. I can't be with this person. But I know that we're all complex human beings, right? Like when I look at my own family, I don't agree with everything my brother says. Sometimes I think my brother's an absolute idiot, but I still love him. I know that he's a complex person himself as well, and he probably thinks the same about me. So seeing this growth from Jordan here, coming to the realization that, hey, maybe that competitive spirit that I have, how I communicate with my partner, it maybe doesn't come across in a good way, where it's almost like he's looking down on Kaz for not performing and it's making her feel worse off, and then obviously not including her in decisions and things like that. I do like seeing a sincere apology from Jordan in this episode, and you could tell that it was sincere in this episode. So I'd be really interested to know how everybody else feels about, Jordan after this episode, because I feel like it's almost like a couple of seasons ago where CT did that to us with Big T, where he took us on this roller coaster where we're all big CT fans, but then we thought he wasn't dealing really well with Big T, and then we came back around to him. It's kind of this roller coaster of emotions when it's like one of your favorites or one of the legends going through all of this, But me personally, I'm a fan of complex personalities. That's why normally when we've got myself or Drew or Chantal on a podcast together and we're talking, I'm always the one that's like, I don't know, I like Ben Dreberg and I kind of like Sarah, but these are all like complex people. Like they're not squeaky clean. And I feel like that's what I like about them, because I feel like if you're that way, you're showing your true self to us, where I feel a lot of other competitors sometimes put on like a front when they're in the camera and only tries to put their best foot forward and don't want to show who they are as a real person. I'm less inclined to follow or like those kind of people. Let's have a look here at some of the comments that have come in. I'll go up and I'll read as many of these as I can tonight. We've got Chris saying the MVPs have made the show true, but the legends have been doing everything to take away from the good gameplay. Yes, that's been troublesome. So I feel like when people don't like this season, they're coming at it from like a main challenge fandom perspective, where it's probably not fun seeing people that have been like, they're supposed to be the legends. They're supposed to be the people who are representing this franchise, go out there and they've been embarrassing. So from that, good. But I think what makes this season good for me is because it's clearly showing some of the inadequacies of the show currently and how they cast and how they allow for people to play. Like there was this big rant, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point on Drew's channel, about the prize money, for instance, and how people are not playing to win it because prize money can be shared. It's interesting. It's this friendship alliance that we've all been annoyed by. And I feel like this season has shown some of these flaws. Now, if production's going to learn from this and if they're going to tweak things, that remains to be seen. I'm a little bit worried because my theory is that they don't really want people on there that challenges the status quo. That's my big fear. Johnny Talks Sport, welcome to the live stream again. To say, he says, to be honest, I think Jordan wants to be number one, but he knows he's not going to be there until he wins 7 championships. I think, Johnny, I've been talking to one of the listeners of the show offline a bit on Instagram, who's a big Jordan fan, and I do think that Jordan could become number one. Like, I mean, he's pretty young compared to the rest of them. How old is he now? 33? 34. So he's got a few championships still in him. And I do think that he's got to be the hot favorite going into the finale, which we can definitely get into at some point as well. Dolores says the legends are not playing like legends. They are not really playing, in my opinion. Yep. And that's because there's too many friends there. That's the big issue. It's been a theme. Yeah, a lot of feel better Kahunas out there. Kahuna will get up. He's just strong like an ox, Kahuna. He's just got to take those vitamin C's. It'll be good. Angel Cake saying the Legends are anything but legendary this season. Yeah, it's disappointing, and I can understand that. It would be like, for me coming from more of a new school challenge fandom perspective, where I'm like, and in saying that, I mean, I've pretty much seen all these challenges that are now perceived legends from their beginning origin stories till now. So I also have that understanding of where they came from and where they are now. That's why I like the growth that I've seen in Jordan. Like, I mean, yes, is he perfect? No. But we've seen that arc over seasons and seasons. He's not the same person that he was when he started. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, because we don't see that. I guess Jordan wanted to throw himself in this season as well. So he still has that, like, I'm not scared of anything. Even in this episode, he was like, call me down if you want to. So he still has that part of him. But it's the fact that they're all kind of protecting each other out there has been boring. And some of the real legends of the shows, like the Bananas, and that have not really been doing too well. Like, I thought Wes left with his head held high at the end, especially with his speech to the MVPs and saying, hey, you belong here, you're taking the show to new heights. I thought that was really classy of him. He probably went out the most classy of all the legends. Johnny says, I wish Bananas wasn't eliminated too early. Yeah, I think Bananas really have been struggling, to be honest with you, Johnny Talk Sports. Like, he's been trying to find his feet. Like, he's been out of the game for a couple of seasons now. He's come back 2 seasons in a row. He hasn't had a really big impact, even though, I mean, hats off to him. He made a finale last season, but he definitely benefited from being with Nani in that season. And I think he just read the situation wrong this season as well, coming up against these MVPs who were all legitimate superstars in their own right, and I think that really made him struggle, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on, because there's more that I want to say on Sarah, for instance. And Maya says, I will always like Jordan. We're complex. Everyone is great. It's very rare that we are black and white. I agree. And I feel like too many people think that everybody should be perfect. Like, if they don't agree with me on every single little thing, then they're not a good person. They're against me, or, they're horrible. But everybody messes up. Like, I mean, think about your friends in real life. I'm sure you don't agree with everything your friends do at all times. And if you do, you've got a boring circle of friends. You should get a new circle of friends. Lovable Licky says, I did not think Jordan was sincere. Oh, you didn't think he was sincere? I felt like, just in the tone of his voice, he seemed like, he kind of got it. I could be wrong. I might be reading it wrong, but I felt like he was pretty close to tears when he was apologizing. Like, he was getting a little bit welled up. Asia saying, I love Jordan, but he does have those moments and partnerships where I think I could not be his partner. And I think, as someone that is very competitive myself, I think that for very competitive people, sometimes they just get to that point where they're like pushing, and they think that it's positive, but you've got to understand how to deal with different personalities, and different people need different types of encouragement. And sadly, in the challenge history, like, a lot of the male partners have not been the greatest when it comes to actually supporting their female partners. And this is not an issue to the challenge alone. Like, I feel like this is, a societal thing across the board, but obviously it is reflected sometimes in the challenge, where they just don't get the same respect. And that's what Kaz was struggling with. And I think that's a trigger point for Sarah Lucina as well, and why she got so triggered with Johnny Bananas when they had that conversation, because she went through a whole arc on Survivor where she said she wasn't getting the same respect as some of the male counterparts that were in her alliance, which I think there is some truth to that, to a degree as well. Danica is saying, I sort of feel like some of the legends are there just for the paycheck. I would assume most are being paid pretty well just to show up. Yeah, I don't know what the story is in regards to payment and things like that, but obviously we just went through, I know, Danica, I think you were in the live for Drew's Patreon as well, where we discussed some of the things that Sarah said on the podcast, the official challenge podcast, which I yet have to go and listen to. Definitely going to go listen to it after this, because apparently she spilled a lot of tea, and she talked about the fact that it was hard for her to go up against these friends that consistently give each other money when they get to the end. So now there is an extra incentive to get Jordan to the end, because if he wins, he's probably going to throw some money your way. Or if Casey wins, she might throw some money your way. So instead of trying to play to win, now you're trying to get as many of your friends there, so that if it's not your day in the final, at least you still get money out of it, which is not a good thing in my opinion. And I think fundamentally the game there's a lot of things that are being shown this season in the game that I feel like needs to be reworked. Like we need to relook at this. Should we allow for people to be able to give money? Should they just have a first, a second, and a third price instead of the way that they're doing it now? So that it actually encourages you to go out and win. Because that's the difference for me in some of these new players like Troy, Danny, and Sarah, and even to a degree Emily, how they're playing the game. They want to win. They're hungry for the title. Where the likes of I think Jordan is hungry as well. Jordan doesn't care because Jordan knows I can go against anyone at the end and win. Tori, I question her decision making this season and allowing for Jordan to go so deep. But one thing I want to say, even this episode, I was so annoyed by this whole storyline between Jordan and Tori and this consistent, I don't know. It's like this romance that people were so keen to see both of them come back and play the show, where it's now getting overplayed and it's a little bit annoying to a certain degree, where any little thing that Jordan does really triggers Tori. Like, I mean, him just having this deal that she wasn't aware of was this big thing for Tori, where to me it's like he didn't go against her. He didn't do anything. I guess she was angry because if he doesn't win, she's not guaranteed a spot in the final. But still, I felt like she was overreacting a little bit on that whole thing. He's just saying, I miss Wes. I think he was still in the game. It would have been way more interesting. I agree. Any season with Wes in it is interesting. I love Wes. I've always said, like, if there's one player from the challenge that I want to see go over and play Survivor, it's Wes. The problem is that if people know anything about Wes, he'll be a huge target in the beginning and he would not have a chance of saving himself in an elimination unless they bring back something like a Redemption Island or an Edge of Extinction or something like that, which I'm in Survivor not a big fan of. But I think Wes brings great entertainment. Sometimes the strategies are brilliant and it works out and he wins, or sometimes it blows up in his face like it did this season. But one thing you'll know with Wes is he won't be boring and he's always classy in defeat. And to me, that is the sign of a true champion. That is the sign of a true legend, someone that can take a loss on the chin. When I look at, the sourness that have come from someone like a Johnny Bananas and, even the mudslinging after he went out of the game still that he's going on about, like that to me is not like, I mean, Johnny, you've won more than anybody else, like own that. And you are great. You have had your time, but, when you lose, take it on the chin and move on. I think it's really important to do that. Dolores says, honestly, I feel the legends should be put on vacation for at least 4 seasons. They're not doing their job. Yeah, I agree. I mean, not on the vacation alliance, but we should just put them like, I've said this a few times, and I'm a big believer that you should. Legends should come back and play the game. That's why I'm fearful, and I know we're not going to get into the USA too much here on this specific live, but that's why I'm fearful for the USA when I see the cast that they've selected for that season, because a lot of them are the same old people that we're getting again now in the USA. So it's like, I would have much rather seen that be a breeding ground for new talent and new strong MVPs to be born that can then come onto the main show as rookies, and at least they're battle hardened to a degree where they can stand up to some of the legends. Or we see a World Championship Season 2, which I don't know if they're going to do it or what the plans are for this next one. Amaya says Jordan definitely was sincere. I just think people don't change overnight. 100%. People don't change overnight. And I don't think Jordan is pretending like he's changing or anything like that. I think he is on this massive growth trajectory. And, there's one thing like where a lot of us, I feel like, can't probably appreciate it, but it must be so difficult. Like when you're on reality TV, like, I mean, in my mind, I'm perfect. But when I get on reality TV, I'm sure there would be certain character flaws that I have that would annoy people and that I'm probably not even aware of. And I think that's what's happened with people like Jordan, where he goes on the show and he sees himself afterwards and how he acted and what he said in certain situations. He probably doesn't feel happy about it. He probably has friends and family that says, man, you didn't carry yourself very well on that specific thing. And Jordan's personality is complex because he's been a fighter his whole life. Just, he doesn't see himself as a victim, which he isn't, but because he's got a disability, like that would have had like put a different mindset for him from a young age. Like he would have had to overperform to be noticed in his own mind because he would feel like he's starting on a back foot. And that puts a chip on your shoulder. So I feel like that in itself is a big part of why Jordan is how he is. Let's have a look here. Angel Cake says the final looks brutal. Can't wait for this week's episode. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, what a stitch up by the end of this episode for Troy. For 2 seasons in a row, this guy cannot catch a break. He ends up going into an elimination, gets battered up, probably less so battered up in this one than his Australian one, but then he has to go do a final straight afterwards, which is not great. When you're going up against people that didn't have to put themselves in an arena and exert any energy, it's going to be pretty tough, And hats off to both Troy and Casey. They get thrown in there again, third elimination. They dominate a third elimination down there as well, and win. And again, a matchup here where Troy was severely outclassed when it comes to the weight class situation. Like, I mean, him running up against Yes is a bit bigger than him. I definitely think he made the right decision. Like, if I was down there, I would not have picked Danny, because Danny knows what he's doing. I mean, the guy played NFL. You don't want to go against someone like that. We've seen the damage that Fessy does in this type of situation, and he didn't even make it all the way up to an NFL position. And then you also have, on the other side, Jordan, who is extremely good. Similar to Troy's got a really good power to weight ratio. So it would have been a really cool battle to see both of them go head to head. The only criticism I would have is that if you're Troy, and this would be interesting to know what you guys think, and I'll probably read it later on down in the comments, but if you're Troy, who would you have thrown in there? Because I do understand why they went for Yes and Emily, because they did them dirty in the daily, and Emily's been gunning for Troy, so this was karma, right there. And I'm sure the producers loved the fire that Troy had in his belly, because this is the most vocal we've seen Troy this whole season about wanting to take Emily down. But I feel like, you got to go for the person who's the biggest threat to win the final. Like, do you even want to run the final against Jordan? I feel like they should have probably thrown Jordan and Kaz down there. And I would have backed Casey to give Kaz a really good run for money. I know she's got mixed martial arts background, which would have helped her, especially in knowing how to maneuver your body and how to distribute your weight with your body and things like that. I think she could have done well, but still, Casey is someone that has played football, like American football, right? So she's used to contact sport. So I feel like they should have taken the shot. Even if they lost there, it's almost better to lose here than lose to Jordan in a final, unless there was a guarantee for some final money, third place is going to give you X amount of money, which there is no guarantee as far as I'm aware. So I'd like to know what you guys think about that, and I'll read it as I go through these comments. Johnny says Jordan's the favorite in this final, but I wouldn't count out Theo. Yeah, Theo's been interesting. Like, I mean, if the challenge had like a classic edit like Survivor, you'd almost count him out, because he's had 0 confessionals and edits, and we know Theo is charismatic. We know Theo is someone that has got really funny jokes and things. I mean, this episode, the funniest thing for me was when he said, I haven't done anything, so we need to win one. This is my worst performance. He wins one. And then Tori and Jordan has this very serious conversation, and he's sitting there and he's like, you know what? I think I deserve the spa or a jacuzzi after this. And you just see him go and sit in the jacuzzi on his own. Yeah, I love Theo. And obviously he did extremely well in War of the Worlds, but yeah, I don't know. Something's not been there. I don't know if it's the dynamic between him and Sarah, if they're not connecting really well. This is the first time he's coming back after a long absence from the challenge. I wouldn't say Theo is my second favorite at this point. Like, I do think Jordan is the favorite, obviously with Kaz, and then Danny and Tori have just not been on the same page this whole season. And I don't know if Tori's mind is in the game, really. Like, I really feel like she's a bit scatterbrained this season. So I'd almost put Troy and Casey as the second most dangerous pair going into this final. And that's what a lot of people were saying as well out there, right? They were really concerned about Troy and Casey coming back into the game. Let's have a few more look here what you guys are saying. Amasa, I've no doubt Jordan will get to 7. Yeah, if he plays, I think he's there. Size of an ox. I'm not too sure what he's referring to there. Angel Cake. Lovell Nicky is saying, yes, he is typically the favorite when he gets there. It's very hard to beat Jordan. I mean, the last one he lost because he was with Anissa. I really feel like if he was with a different partner, he could have continued his very high strike rate of getting in finals. Amaya saying Wes loves a speech. He does. Wes's speech was class, definitely. That's how you want to go out. I mean, if you're a Wes or someone like this or a Banana, so don't you want to, like, if this is your last time being eliminated, like, how do you want to be remembered? And at some point, this was the biggest difficulty for me when I first came into the challenge was there is this love for fans with these people that have been there for years. And I understand the respect. I understand that you've got to there's like a certain love that you have for the people that have built the game, right? They're the pillars of this legacy that has been built for the challenge. But there is going to come a point where these legends will have to hand the baton on to someone else. And I think Wes gets that. He gets that, listen, we need new, innovative, creative players coming into this thing because he's not going to be there forever. He won't be able to play this game forever. They're getting older. And All Stars in the beginning was kind of like, this is the league for the older people, but now they're bringing younger people in there as well. And they're kind of mixing and matching it quite a bit. But at some point, they have to think about that. Like, how do you bring new people into this franchise so we can get to the challenge season 60? And the likes of a Wes and those people, I don't think they would be around that long, especially with him starting a family. Chris says, question, if Jordan wins World Championship, does it count toward his record? Because some people say spin-offs don't count as a legit win. Example, Wes is a 2-time champ, not 3, even he won in All-Stars 3. Good question. And I look at it this way. So firstly, when they went into the season, they counted any of the championships. Like Janae came in as a 2-time champion. They didn't say she had 0 championships to her belt. So I feel like production themselves counts any of the spin-offs as an actual championship. I would have always been of the belief that the spin-offs aren't of the same quality as the main show because you've got younger, fitter, more athletic competitors that are on the top of their game competing with each other. But in reality, if you look at this season, Chris, I believe that this has been one of the most stacked seasons we've ever seen. Like across the board, when they had this cast, all of us knew when they were coming in with Darrell, Jordan, Bananas, Wes, all in one season. Hate or like her, Tori came in with a championship. She's kind of been getting to the finals quite consistently, and she is a good challenger at this point. Casey, you cannot deny it. Casey is up there when it comes to consistency. Janae has been proven to be really good in recent seasons. I mean, you can't blame Janae for going out this season. She really had no control over her fate. Amber won the final. Like, I thought it was a very strong cast. Like I believe that this season should count as a win for Jordan if he does win it, because he had to beat probably a more competitive cast than what you would get on the main show. Like any of these MVPs that came up, I don't think outside of the Argentinian team, and this is said with all due respect to the Argentinian team, I just don't know if they fully knew what they were getting themselves into. I don't feel like there was any layups really this season. So for me personally, I think it counts. I think it's impressive if you win this season. BBG95 says, Bananas underestimated both the MVPs and some of the legends like Kellyanne. 100%. I forgot Kellyanne. Kellyanne was legit this season. Like, I mean, I know I've been annoyed with Kellyanne a few times in the past, but she was playing, man. She wasn't leaving anything out there, and she won 2 dailies from memory as well. Joanna's saying Johnny should have retired after his last win. He feels out of place now. Yeah, it's weird how some people can still be like they still just fit in, and you almost don't know the age gap between them. Like, for instance, CT, like I never felt like, CT became Uncle CT and he had that dad energy about him, but he was never awkward. Like, I don't feel like he was out of place, and I feel like he could fit in better with the younger crowd. Like even this season with Bananas flirting with Justine, it was just weird. Like, it didn't feel natural to me at all. And I'm not a Bananas hater. I actually like what Bananas brought to the show. I think he, without Bananas, the show would have been worse off, because he has given the show so many memorable moments, and he is a legend of the game. But I think you're right, Joanne. I think he maybe is past his prime, and let's see what he does in USA, I guess. But yeah, I'm fearful for him. Like, maybe he should go to All Stars rather than the main shows. Amaya is saying Bananas has been having a hard time with these new folks. He is trying to adapt. Yep, he is. And they're just not falling for any of the stuff. Like, I mean, even when I had Troy on and I spoke to him and we spoke about like the toast and everything, and everybody was like, who is this guy? They don't understand the history behind him, or, him trying to take lead and things like that. So it came across as a bit awkward, I think, for them. Dabu, welcome back to the stream. It's been a while. Dabu says, I have no issue with Jordan politics. On All-Stars 3 and Total Madness, he got exposed because he had no allies. Yep. Yeah. And, I mean, Total Madness, from memory, is it Total Madness the one that he won where he had to, like, win every single time when he was thrown in? No, that was War of the Worlds 2. I love the fact that he was being thrown and just consistently won his way to the end and then still won, against Kara's Colt. And I'm a big Kara fan, but I mean, I was loving what Jordan was giving us that season. He was definitely he was portrayed as the hero, and he was the hero that season. Lovable Nikki is saying, Joanne Dorsey, Wes is for the betterment of the show. He does not need the money. He'd never join the Vacation Alliance. Yes. Yes. I don't think he would ever go there. Well, he doesn't need the money, firstly, right, Nikki? Like, he's got a Porsche and a Lamborghini in the garage. If you've seen his house is pretty impressive as well. Johnny says, people said that after Rivals 3, but he still won another championship. Yep. Lovable Nikki Jordan is an actor now, stage tears. Amaya Baker, some people will never think Jordan can have feelings and grow. Unfortunately, it does matter, though, as long as he believes he can. Yeah, I think Jordan can change. And again, I might be a sucker because I love it when people show growth and they want to get better. And, I try and do that in my own life. Like, I don't think I'm perfect by any means. Like, I try and be better if I'm like, like I said, I can see the competitive side. I can get that because I've competed at a very high level in karate my whole life, and because of that, I have some high standards. So I think even when I play like Monopoly, I'm like, don't be so competitive, Monopoly. Like, just chill out. People are probably thinking you're being a dick, But yeah, it can be tough, especially if you're like that type of A-type personality. Danica is saying, I think Jordan doesn't realize how dominant he is over other people. When he hears it from his partner, it's a bit of a surprise. I don't think he intentionally is trying to be hurtful. I think you've got the right, Danica. I think you've got the right read there. I don't think he's trying to be that person. It's like a reflex for him because he's just that competitive, and he doesn't realize until she sat him down. Is like, listen, this is the things you're saying. This is how you're coming across. I do think he's trying to improve. Like, I'm still annoyed with the fact that, in the moment, he wasn't dealing with it well, especially when, Kaz is like, you've done 1,000 of these eliminations. I haven't, he didn't have a good response, but at least he did apologize, and at least he's trying to change. It's better than, the Jordan of old. I don't know if he would have owned up to that, to be honest. Asia's saying, yes, Lovable Nikki West is not pressed about the money, but when he is on the cast, he is here to win. Literally my favorite challenger. Yep. Johnny's saying, I feel like Bananas just wanted to parents check this year. Once he found out it was a partner splitting the price, I think he only wanted to win last year because of Nani. It's a good point. I think, he did come back for Nani last season, and obviously Nani was going through a lot, and they've been friends for a long time, so that was pretty admirable. But yeah, we learned one thing: him and Nani under pressure, I don't think work well together. They don't communicate well. Johnny says, he's not my favorite player, but I think Troy would be good for the main show. I agree. And that's why I'm very sad to hear that at this stage, I don't think Troy is in the running for it. But, things could still change. I don't know if anybody's going out there yet, but you've got to give it to the guy. He's gone to the finals back to back, and he does, for me, give that Derek Kaczynski type of energy, the short guy going in there, beating these bigger players in the eliminations. He's become a bit of an elimination king. I mean, he's got a 4 out of 4 record now in the eliminations, which is pretty impressive. This season's been good to watch. Cash was saying, I'm starting to think Muller Jordan was a clone. Yeah, probably. Lovell Licky says, Asia Williams, he's definitely trying to win. I mean, we see most legends trying to get all their friends to the final. Wes knows how to make good TV. That's true. Angel Cake says, yes, I'd love to see Troy on the flagship show. 100%. He's got the Angel Cake entertainment and our fandom's approval. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Casting team and producers, make it happen. Get Troy on the show as a regular. Troy certainly wants to win and wants to have money. He is welcome on the main show, in my opinion. Yep. And especially, I think they may miss an opportunity here to get him and Emily both back on the show, because I think out of these MVPs, Emily is a sure thing. I just have this feeling that Emily, they love what she's bringing to the show. This specific episode, obviously, they were giving her so many water challenges. They're like, we've got an Olympian on here. We've got to do at least 3 water challenges. And I found it ironic that the city that nearly ran out of water probably like 4 years ago, Cape Town, was like within a month of running out of water, had 3 water challenges there. There was a drought there not that many years ago, but somehow they found the water to make this happen, to help Emily get to a final. And it didn't work for her here, but hats off to her in this elimination, because we've seen Casey go down there and dominate physically against every single person. And Emily doesn't come from that physical background, but she beat Casey in a round of hall brawl. which was pretty impressive. You've got to take your hat off to Emily for doing that. That's that champion's mentality, that mindset that she had to beat Casey in a round. And then also, I was so impressed by Casey because it's easy to lose that confidence in yourself when suddenly someone's beating you at your own game and you're like, oh man, have I lost it? Does this person have that leg up on me? But again, Casey also has that champion's mentality to get back up and win the next round, which was very impressive to witness. Overall, this was probably one of my favorite eliminations to watch. I always love the Hall Brawl. Eliminations is my favorite part of the challenge. I'm always excited for that. And yeah, seeing the emotion from Emily at the end, man, I'm not going to lie, it kind of got to me. I was like, oh, I'm getting a bit teary-eyed. Why am I caring about Emily? But I'm not a hater of Emily's. I thought she brought something this season, and what she's got similar to Troy is that fighter champion mentality. Like they want to win. She wants to be in a final so bad, to the point where it bothers her that Kiki and Troy has won one and she hasn't won one. And we could have had that Troy Emily dynamic go onto the main show, and would they still be against each other? Would they work together? Like I thought there was a storyline there that they could explore, and the fact that maybe we don't get many MVPs from the show on the main show, to me, is really like production's going to miss an opportunity to bring some strong players into the game that potentially could push against the Vacation Alliance. That's what I'm worried about. W saying, Chris, spin-off wins count for me. Wes is a 3-time champion. Let's face it, these finals are harder than they were 16 years ago when Darrell and Co were winning. That's a very good point, W. Yeah, and also the quality, I think, like I said, of these people. Johnny Talk Sports says, yes, Troy on the main series. Amy says that mullet looked horrible on Jordan. There's a few people, Amy, that really liked the mullet. They're reckoning that Jordan should bring that mullet back. I don't know. He would fit right into New Zealand. On the South Island of New Zealand, when I first moved to New Zealand, everybody had a mullet. And I was like, geez, I'm not getting one. Even if I don't fit in here in New Zealand, I'm not getting a mullet. I don't think I could pull it off. Danica is saying, I think Troy and Kiki would be great on the flagship. Agreed. I would love to see both of them back on. Amaya says, Johnny did it definitely for Nani, but Emily was his initial partner, so he did it for her as well. Let's have a look. What else is here? Angel Cake. I don't miss the Uncle Daddy mullet. Yeah. Asia saying, yes, Troy gives me Derek K vibes. He's a warrior. We need him on the main show. 100% agree. Johnny Talk says, I feel like Bananas only joined the Vacation Alliance for Nani. If he was with Emily like he was supposed to be, he wouldn't have. Yeah, and him and Emily together would have been a very strong deal. I want to see, I know Emily had some problematic stuff as well back in the day. I mean, I don't have a strong enough opinion about that. I feel like she was pretty naive and stupid in what she said back on the show then. But, I would love to see her on the show to see how she would be now. Like, I mean, I'm sure she's matured a lot. She's grown a lot. As a pure competitor, if I'm just looking at her as a competitor, I'd love to see her on the show from that perspective, because I feel like she could give some current people a run for their money. So don't bring, what over here. Joanne says, why won't they cast Derek on the flagship anymore? Yeah, I don't know why they're not casting him. Like, Derek has kind of lost a little bit of his glow in the All-Stars for me as well. Like, I started really high with him. Second season, he was making some dumb decisions. All-Star seasons, didn't feel like he was giving me much. Like, he's not the Derek we remember from back in the day, for me personally. Danica saying, Asia, Derek K is one of my favorites. Right. I mean, especially the Derek K from back in the day, right? And I don't know, maybe it is just the OGs he was playing with where, I don't know, like I didn't feel like he didn't stand out to me by the end of this. I don't know if anybody else feels like his All-Stars, especially the last two performances, were kind of out. Soul Uncle Daddy might stand. Casting is so hard. Not everyone can do 3 months. I think that may be a part of why. Yeah, that's right. And I think that's why people like Danny and Sarah would be completely out. I mean, obviously we had this very emotional scene from Sarah this episode where she was struggling being away from her family, seeing her kids drawing and, missing out on being there, seeing her son grow up, which clearly is starting to really take a toll on her. And then also her husband, like, hey, you're having fun out there, you're partying. It's like, he clearly hasn't watched any of the recent challenge seasons, because no one's partying anymore. No one's going wild like they used to go back in the day. It's all business these days when it comes to the challenge. But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like Sarah's got this thing where personality-wise, she's such a high performer, someone that wants to compete at the highest level. That's why she does ultra marathons and all these kind of things. And it's probably getting to that point where a lot of people that I know in my life, like friends I've had that have had kids, like for a lot of women, they struggle with their own identity when they like get kids, and they're like, oh, now I'm a mother and I've got to be this person at home. So it means I can't do what I want to do and be a little bit selfish. And this was, I feel like, Sarah's opportunity probably these last 2 seasons to be a bit selfish and go do something for herself, and find her own identity in this competitive realm that she loves to compete in. But then she's still dealing with mommy guilt and being away from her son and being away from her family. So this clearly played a big toll on her. I know some people were like probably not as engaged because they're not Sarah fans like I am, but I feel for her. And for me, Sarah is undisputedly now, hot take, one of the goats of reality TV. She's played in 5 competitive reality TV shows, and she's made it to the end in 4 of them. And you can almost say she made it to the end in all 5, because getting to the merge, which is her worst performance on Survivor, her first time, I think she was the merge boot, is still an achievement on its own. It's not easy to get to the merge. So she's clearly good at what she does. And I think at some point I might do a completely separate video talking about the fact that she's a goat, and it might be unpopular with some people, but results matter. And she's done really well this season again. Seeing her this episode struggle with the decision, though, between Danny and Emily, I was a little bit annoyed with her. I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit annoyed because I'm like, man, you came in here with Danny. Danny is your right-hand person. He's there for you, like, to give you that emotional support when you're struggling. And now you're considering, like, turning on him here in the last minute. That to me was a little bit hard to watch, to be honest. But she did come to her senses. Like, I do think even if the stalemate wasn't there, she would have still ended up saving Danny in that moment. That's why she told Emily this before they went to the arena and they had that emotional moment together. It's crazy to me how quickly Emily and Sarah bonded on that deeper level, to the point where she was actually considering saving her over Danny. Like, it was a consideration there for a moment, which would have really annoyed me. Johnny, I think Jordan is a changed person. I just think they play things up for the show because they need him to be. The Bananas and West may not be on there for much longer. There's like more entertaining ways to be a villain than some of the stuff Jordan does. Like, some of the stuff, like how he is with his partner and stuff, like could be seen as like being a bit of a misogynist, maybe like talking down on his female partner, not seeing her as an equal. That type of stuff is a bit problematic, and I don't think is a good villain, to be honest. But in saying that, like, I don't think he does that on purpose. That's my take. I know Nicky's like he's acting, and that's fine. We all have different opinions about this stuff, and that's fine. I do think that it is in his personality just to bite before he so but I do think he is trying to change. I really do think that he's doing some work. Amaya saying, I do think he plays it up. Yeah, he definitely plays his certain aspects of his personality. I think he does play up 100%, and he is going to be that next guy. I think if people don't like Jordan, I'll say don't watch the challenge probably for the next 5 seasons, because I do think Jordan is going to become a mainstay again. Like, he's here for the long run. Bananas is getting older. CT, who knows when he's coming back with all the stuff he's got going on outside of the challenge. He might have to come back and make some more money pretty soon. But yeah, I'm worried for him, and I don't know if we see him back anytime soon. And how long can he keep it going? Like, can he keep competing at a competitive level until he's 50? I don't know. I wouldn't bet against them, though. Danica says maybe next season should be challengers who have not been on for a few seasons. They have quite a few good players that have not been on. They could do another season with newer players and them. I've heard some rumors that next season, potentially, Danica, could be a season without any champions. Now, if that's going to be true and if that's going to happen, I can't tell you, but I've heard some rumors floating about that we could maybe get a season without champions on there, and that would cut out a lot of people if that is the case. I mean, there's been a lot of new champions that have been made in recent times, but maybe they're trying to give Corey his first season, get a young buck on the champions list, because I don't know if Nelson's coming back anytime soon. Johnny Talk Sports says, even if Fessy made it to the NFL, he would have been a special teams player or on a practice squad. Now, specials team player, because obviously I'm not from the US and I don't follow NFL too much. I believe specials team player is the one that like runs to the ball when it gets kicked off. Because I know there's like your defensive team, your attacking team, and I think your specials team is that, and maybe like the ones that kick the ball for posts and chases it. So yeah, there's a few things I don't know. So I mean, I'm imagining it's because of his stature. He's a big boy, so I would have thought he'd be able to like do something on the defense potentially. Asia says, yes, Danica, I would love to switch up the cast at this point. I think we all really want to see young blood. That's why, like, if you haven't seen my video yet on this channel, I did one for Fresh Meats 3, and I nominated 8 international players, 4 from Survivor South Africa and 4 from Australian Survivor, that I think could be good additions to the show. Let's have a look. Johnny said, to be honest, I would have went for Jordan and Kaz. Yeah, 100%. I think that would have been the right move. It was smart to go for Yes and Emily, but I would have loved to see Troy and Casey go up against Jordan and Kaz. Yeah, would have been amazing. That would have been epic. Theo's Jacuzzi debate may have been my favorite scene of the entire season. Comedy gold. Yeah, 100%. Like, I loved it. I mean, Theo clearly has a great sense of, like, he's got a great personality and a great sense of humor. So we're missing out on so much not seeing him more this season. W saying, I think they may make right move choice to choose Yes and Emily. Generally think Troy and Casey can win it. Yeah, so you think Troy and Casey can still win it above Jordan and Kaz? It's possible, man, but it's hard to bet against Jordan. Like it's very hard. But I hope that it's a close final between the two teams. Like I just don't know what other team could really push them based on the sort of past performances we've seen in this season. Angel Cake says, I'm still worried about Casey's endurance, but hoping her and Troy can get the win. Yeah, on the next on finale episode, we saw Troy carrying Casey at one point, which is never a good sign. Never a good sign at all. Johnny Talk Sports says that Yes get that many confessionals in All Stars 1. I don't know. Like, I mean, Yes was kind of like he came out of nowhere in All Stars 1. And one of the things that was funny for me this episode was seeing that scene of Yes going back to Troy to say, oh man, it sucks. It's how it is. And he still struggles with that backstabbing strategic game because Troy was clearly not having it. He's like, yeah, whatever, Yes, I'm not taking it. I'm not going to listen to any of your BS. So Yes still struggles with that. He was kind of forced this season to play more of a strategic game because of Emily. And so forth. But one of the things I will give Yes a shout out for is I did see online, he said, I think it may have been on Twitter, he said that all of the decisions him and Emily made was 50-50. So all the hate going Emily's way is not warranted because he was in on all of the moves. So if it didn't work, like the deal that they made with Jordan and Jordan ending up betraying them and sort of eliminating them early, I don't look at it as a failure. I mean, they had to make a deal. It was the only thing on the table at that point. Now, they always knew that maybe Jordan wasn't going to do it. But again, Jordan lived up to the whole thing about saying that they play with honor and integrity, which I kind of found laughable a week ago. But he proved that that's how he plays the game because he did not win. He stopped before the end, which I don't necessarily like. I want to see people go out there and win the dailies. But he allowed for Sarah and Theo to win it. So he did do what he said he was going to do, he just basically said, Emily, and Yes, you didn't read the fine print. Nowhere in there did you say, I have to make sure you guys win, which was funny to see because they were under the impression that he was just going to allow them to win. Lovable Nikki says, Angel Cake Entertainment, Casey's endurance is trash unless she's worked on it. Yeah, not good. Joanne says, yep, she gases out pretty early. BBG says, I think this cast was so stacked, meant so that it should definitely count as a title for Jordan if he does win. Yeah, 100%. I agree. It's stacked. She looked terrible in season 37 final. Casey may have not been so good in the endurance. She has definitely been more likable this season, so I wouldn't be mad if they won, that's for sure. Yep. I think she's working on it, right? Like you have to if you've had a couple of seasons where it's not gone well for you. Not good at all. So everybody's agreeing that she's not good at her endurance. But one thing I will say about Casey this season, in my mind, I know a lot of people have been, and I'm included, I'm definitely not excluding myself from this, have been very critical on Casey when it comes to how much does she bring to us from an entertainment perspective? Like, is she fun to watch? Like, is she a character? And she hasn't been when she's been with Nani, her girlfriend, and her best friends from Big Brother on there. She seems to sit back a lot. But This season, we've seen a little bit more of this fiery side of her, fighting back, having to go into eliminations. I've enjoyed this side of Casey, you know. Kuna says the relationship fans have with older vets was consolidated by setting many of their real world seasons that's not competition based, and so you just get to know and like or hate the characters, and that's where obviously I miss out from that because I've never really watched real world. I'm more into the competitive reality TV side of it, but I get it. I get 100% that's there and that people will be loyal. Caswash says that Casey betting together for Troy's sake. Otherwise, I need him to drag her. I want the boy to win. 100%. Kellyanne made this season. Yeah, Kellyanne was phenomenal this season. Like, I really enjoyed it. And also, I like the fact that she was like, no, screw all the vet alliances and people playing to be able to get on the main show and be in a final maybe in next season. I'm playing this season to win. I don't care. And that's what I want to see more of. Like Kellyanne, in my opinion, she can go to the main show. Let's put her on the main show because she wasn't a sheep. She didn't follow the rest. She played her own game. And I respect that. I feel like Janae coming into the season, she was seduced by that alliance where she was kind of doing their work in the beginning because she was like, oh, if I do get onto the main show maybe one day, I'll be the cool kids. That's the feeling I got. But Kellyanne definitely didn't give me that vibe. Let's see what Edric says. Agreed, Kellyanne is queen for spicing up the season. Yes, one of the legends that actually performed for us. Kahuna Vision says, Livable Nikki says, Kahuna Vision, very true. I've been here since the beginning. Real World New York, Road Rules 1, the first challenge season, Road Rules All Stars. These are my babies. Yeah, I get it. Like, I get why people come out like wanting to fight, you know, because it's almost tribal like when you've watched it since the beginning. Amaya says, Bananas probably will do All Stars, but ultimately it's about pay for him. Yeah. So are you saying that they pay less for All Stars? Because I feel like if you probably look at it, it's almost like pound for pound. Like if you almost have to work it out, like how much do you get paid per day, you know? And All Stars is becoming a pretty big payday if you're only out there for maybe like 3 weeks versus 3 months and you're still able to win like $500,000. It's not a bad payday, I think. Danica says, I think the new people should take a week to catch up on the challenge history, learn the personalities and traditions. Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. I mean, if you were to go and play Survivor, I would say, you know, learn about previous players, get to know what they did and what they didn't do, you know, so that you can learn from that in the game. And definitely when you're going up against vets, I think the problem that there is, Danica, for new players is probably that it's intimidating and like there's so many seasons that you've got to go watch. And there's like some of the seasons can be hard to even get. I guess most of it's on Paramount Plus now, especially if you're in the US. But if you're like an international MVP coming in, as someone that is international, I can say it's really hard to get your hands on all the seasons of the challenge globally. So I think it's a big problem for global players when they bring them in. W says, I like Theo more when he's calling Ashley Eminem's mom a bit lackluster this season. I feel like he's still the Theo we all know and love. It's just the camera has not followed him. Like, it's not been the story about Theo's triumphant return to the show, because if it was, we would have seen more of him. 100% think we would have seen more of him. Amaya says, the fact that Amber B loves Jordan, I trust her judgment. Yeah, true. True. Amber's seen like posting in pictures with Jordan recently, which is quite an interesting trio that she was in from memory. Johnny Talk Sports says, rumor has it Bananas gets paid a quarter of the prize money just to show up. Wow. That's a lot. I wonder what Wes and CT gets if they go and play. Amaya says, Johnny for sure gets paid 6 figures a season. Man. Well, if you're the GOAT, I guess you can demand that pay. Kuna says, when TJ said B to yes and Emily, he gave the I hope to see you both in the future. It's a good sign. I 100% think that Emily is loved by this production team because they protected her and her crew immensely in the Challenge Australia. They didn't show some of the bad stuff that happened, and they're still censoring it right now. Like I had an interview with Connors and parts of it couldn't make the cut. I'm not allowed to talk about it. But for those that know, that are online, that follow some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes, all I can say is there's some rumors out there that are pretty close to being accurate. So, and she was part of that side. So they protected her from that. And similar with Grant to a degree. I think they love her. I really do think we see Emily back. Kona, thank you for jumping in, man. Get better soon. Go and rest up. Danica says we could have people like Tony, Zach, Kara, Jenna there as so many that could be on another world championship with international players. Yeah, I agree. Zach is a little bit worrisome. Like, I don't have a problem with Tony time. Kara, obviously, everybody knows where I stand with Kara Maria, massive stan. And I like Jenna. But I feel like if Jenna was to go out there and play, maybe you do need Zach out there. Otherwise, he might just phone her up again and make her want to quit the show again, which would not be good. But yeah, I'm not the biggest Zach fan. But again, like, if I'm being true to saying you should give people an opportunity to grow and prove you wrong and that they can learn, then maybe you should give them another chance. Janae says Kara should 100% be on global. I agree. That was crazy that she wasn't amongst the legends, but maybe when they first cast it, they weren't sure if they could get her back on. She was still like on the outs, I think, with them. When now probably she's now, after being back for All Stars 4, maybe she's back on the roster. Angel Cake saying, I'm looking forward to All Stars 4, but maybe a little break first. We aren't getting a break. It's been non-stop, Angel Cake. It's like just bang, 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 season after season. I'm looking forward to All Stars as well. Can't wait to talk about it. Definitely, at some point we gotta get the trio back together. I know it's been hard with different schedules not matching up and things like that, but at some point we've got to do this, especially when All Stars are there. Maybe the end of the season we get to download a little bit of our opinions, get to bounce it off each other, because I know I'm normally like the wild card. I'm the one that's like got different opinions. I feel like the most different and out there opinions compared to yourself and Chantal, but even you guys have got your own opinions, so I think it would be good to sit down. Dub is saying Total Madness was when Wes Bananas put him against Fessy in a pole wrestle. Impossible to win. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, that was a lose-lose situation for him. Jan says, I can't wait to see the trailer for All Stars 4. Yeah, it's going to be fire. I can't wait. I just know Cara Maria is going to be all over it because she's going to dominate this season, guys. It's the return of the queen. You heard it here first. Joanne says, I think Darrell said on Challenge Mania that Danny was done doing the challenge. Apparently, he didn't even want to do global. Interesting. Yeah, it's sad because, I mean, I can understand why. I don't think Danny is also this family guy, and I think he didn't enjoy his experience out there this time. But one of the weird things with Danny is, even though he didn't enjoy it, even though he says he's done, he's been very active on social media, engaging with fans and things like that. So I feel like, maybe he can be persuaded again in the future for like a World Championship Season 2 if he is like an automatic draft as a previous USA champion or something. I don't know. Sarah said she's done too. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It saddens me because I feel like, for me personally, my take on Danny and Sarah is that they are pushing the game in a new direction, and they're kind of showing a lot of the things that are wrong with the game, like people playing for friendship, money being shared, which is why you don't always play the game to win in yourself, being totally against throwing themselves in for no reason and things like that. Like, it's just, they've been like the voice of common sense for me this season. Israel says Jordan and Tori needs to cast separately in the future seasons. I agree. I think Tori needs a break. We've seen Tori on like how many seasons now? Like, bring Jordan on his own for the next one. Lena saying Darrell's interview was very eye-opening. I'll go listen to that, Lena. I've got a bit of catching up on podcasts to do, but I'll definitely go listen to that. It'd be interesting to hear what he's got to say. Joanne saying W, I felt bad for him. I would assume that's the pole wrestle. Angel Cake saying I could see Danny and Sarah not thrilled with how the season experienced and it leaving a bitter taste for them. Yeah, and I mean, obviously we know that Tyson was already out, Angela was already out prior to the season, and I think it also led to why, when I look at the USA 2 cast, I think in some ways it's a downgrade. Even when I look at the players that they've brought in from Survivor, I don't feel like it's the same caliber of players like we got on the first USA. And maybe that is because they're like, we don't want people that are at a certain level because they will have certain demands or expectations. So we'll go for people that have been not a part of like the Survivor possibility of coming back, or like almost like legendary status. Danny didn't necessarily come in as a legend from Survivor, but man, in my mind, he's just gone up and up in stock, like since he's been on the show. Amaya says Jordan will probably won't do the next 2 seasons because of is it hate racing? I don't know. So I assume there's something else he does outside. Is right. The Vacation Lines is going to kill the challenge franchise slowly and methodically. Yep. They need to break that thing up very quickly. Sarah's in a pickle. She's sort of portrayed herself as a villain when it's not a great look for a law enforcement officer. She should watch how she acts, or if it could affect her day-to-day job. Yeah, I can see that. And listen, the thing with Sarah is that she's a cutthroat player. Like even in Survivor, that was a big thing for her. Like she's like, I'm gonna make the best decision for me to get to the end and win the money. And she said, why is one of her biggest arguments in Survivor was why is it okay for a man to do that in Survivor? And people look at that person as that guy, as a strategic mastermind of the game, right? But when a woman does it, automatically they're a villain. Like because women can't be this villainous betrayal player. That's why we don't have many great villains when it comes to females sometimes in the reality TV world. So I think she's got a point where there's like this double standard between the two. And my opinion on reality TV is that whatever you do on reality TV should never be a reflection of who you are as a person outside of the game. Because like someone earlier said, Jordan plays up certain parts of his personality for the show. Sarah probably does the same. Like you're on it's like a game. It's like when you play Monopoly. Just because you're playing villainous, and you're buying out all the real estate from the person who's struggling in the game doesn't mean that you're this terrible person in real life. It's a game at the end of the day. But some people take it very personal, and I hope it doesn't affect her personal life outside. She doesn't deserve that, in my opinion. Amaya says they don't have to cast the vacation lines as a whole, but I think that they have a slim pickings because of the 3-month thing. Yep. Troy, welcome back here to the live. Always good to have you. I'm just doing the solo review. It's more of a general chat about the challenge, and then whenever I can insert something about the episode, I do. It's been a lot of fun reading all the comments and just interacting one-on-one with everybody. Amy's saying Emily and Yes were crazy to choose 3-time Survivor player, 1-time winner over their own Australian team. I knew Sarah would cut Emily from the beginning. Yeah, Grant tried to warn her, but I think that it's hard when you've just got more in common with a person. You just naturally gravitate to that person. And I think Sarah and Emily connect as both being strong women who are very athletic and into their sport and have got a very competitive personality about them. I just think they connected. Saw the cutthroat Sarah come out this episode because her eyes, man, when Emily was competing, that was the most intense that I've seen her eyes this whole season. It was that level where she went crazy on USA almost, Yes, hello to Troy, everyone. Always good to have Troy here in the live. I'm so far behind on all of these lives. I'm trying to read as many as I can. I might have to skip a couple as we're going through here. Yeah, definitely. Congratulations, Troy, making another final. It's insane. Insane for you to be able to get there again. And you've just got bad luck, man, like constantly being in these eliminations before you go into a final, which is crazy. Yeah, Emily is a world-class athlete, definitely. Kuna saying she got duped in the challenge by Jordan, told her number one age was going in, and it's against her rival. She wins the first round and then loses to someone smaller. She then had the field position balling while Casey and Troy ring the bell even more. One of the most humiliating defeats ever. Yeah, I mean, listen, there can only be one winner in this, right? Lovable Nikki says Jordan did not honor that deal, Chris. Well, I don't remember him saying that he would help them win. I just remember him saying he would not win it himself and stop in front of the finish line, which he did. So I think he honored it. Amaya saying he honored the deal, yes, and Emily just didn't understand what he truly said. 100%. He never said he'd help them win. I didn't hear that unless they edited it out. Sarah was Emily's backup number one. Grant was Emily's number one. Sarah needed to stay with her number one, Danny. Agreed. Sarah did stick with Danny. Yeah, I thought so. That whole thing where she told Emily she was going to put her in, I agree. I think that showed she was going to choose Danny. It's just sad that she was doubting it at one point. And Danny had a good point in saying, well, you could have told me because I don't mind being the bad guy and being the team in there that I want to throw in there, Dub is saying, am I the only one that expected Casey to body Emily in that whole brawl? Doesn't she play rugby or football? No, I thought Casey would win 100%. It was impressive that Emily actually won one. It was very impressive because Casey did that for, at a very high level. I don't know, it was like Division 1 or whatever she got up to, but she was basically at almost a pro athlete level. That's what she did. Kahuna says Emily's large and Aussie were built different. Yeah, but I mean, again, even if you're large, like Emily, I think the thing that for Emily really came out as her fighting spirit, that I'm a Olympic athlete type of feeling came out. Like she doesn't quit. I think her heart, even more so than her athletic ability, really carried her in this episode for me personally. Angel Cake said, I thought Troy and Casey were going to win the whole brawl 2-0. Going in was surprised Emily got a win. Exactly. It's impressive. It's really impressive for her to get that win. No one else has done this to Casey yet on the challenge, right? So it was good to see. It's right to say, hey guys, does anyone know anyone I don't. Maybe someone else does. I try and avoid it. What I normally do is I would look at to the point where they show us who the cast is, and then at that point, luckily they're really good at saying, "Don't read below this. I won't read below that." Asia's saying Emily annoys me a bit, but I don't mind her. She's a lot less annoying than Lola did as an Olympian playing the challenge. I think Emily is like a good potential villain, but I don't know if production sees her as a villain. I do, but I think she's interesting because she does have strategy. She is very competitive, and the fact that she cried at the end for me, like we don't see a lot of people show that much emotion when they go out because they're like, we're just going to get the call next season. Like if any of these legends or MVPs, vets go out of the game, no one cares because they know they're getting the call next season. That's why it means so much more. But I do think she's coming back. Chris says, please no spoilers. Yeah, I wasn't rooting for her, but still like her as a villain and a competitor. Let's have a look. Troy says, yep, very protected. Let's see. I needed the trio back together. Yeah, we'll definitely, at some point, we'll definitely come back together. We're going to have to talk about this. Cutie saying, well, Casey said she thought she had won the first round too. She said Bellring was closer than what it looked on TV. Wow, so it was very close. One of the things, Cutie, that I will say, it's interesting how, when she did get beaten in that first round, she still came back strong. And that to me was impressive to see because a lot of people just, that shows Casey's got fight in her because no one has given her that push up until that point. And she came back and won the next one. So hats off to her. Amaya says Emily just gives the dark vibes, but I'm okay with her being on the show. Jenna and Zach on the same season shouldn't happen. Can't handle the way they fight, especially since they're married. Yeah, it would be bad, I think. It's kind of like a Jordan Tory situation. I don't know if I want to see this. Cutie saying, no, Cara Maria can't beat Laurel. Yeah, she hasn't beaten Laurel she hasn't beaten her yet in an elimination from memory. But, it's always the first for everything. It's why I love sports. You never know what's going to happen, Amaya says, Tony is Banana's adopted son, so I definitely miss him. Yeah, he's back on All Stars as well. Sarah and Danny were pushed away for not being pawns for the vets. That's kind of how I feel, Jacob. BBG says Darrell and Yes both mentioned that Survivor players have a different approach than typical challenge players, and they were very smart. Yep, I agree. I think that's why you need strong Survivor players on the show. Like, not that I'm saying that Michelle and Jay aren't, but I just don't know. Like, Michelle has always had for me a question mark on how good she really is. And I don't think she's done well on the challenge. And then Jay's a little bit too sporadic, not as calculated. Maya says Team Laurel always. She needs that second win. Love Cara, though. Amy says, are they saying that they're done because they can beat Jordan? That's unlikely to win any money. No, I think they just didn't enjoy the experience in total. I think Danny and Sarah just don't like playing in this version of the challenge. That's the only version of the challenge they've ever played in. And I don't think it gets any easier for them. Like if they go to the main show, there's going to be even more allegiances to other people that consistently comes back with that Vacation Alliance. Cutie saying Casey is too thin for finals. She needs to prepare her body by eating carbs and drinking Gatorade, coconut water, Powerade so that her body doesn't break down in the finals. Yeah, she is actually quite lean, but she's got a lot of muscle, like strong for her build. Casswash says, Cutie, I don't know what that made me laugh. It's so specific. Yeah, I feel like Cutie should be like, should be Casey's like trainer. Give her some training advice before she goes out there again. Kitty says, facts, they need to go back to having second and third. Yeah, 100% need to do that. USA 2 having MTV players is an interesting choice. MTV definitely wants to make the show CBS. Very true. Very, very true. Let me see. I've got to skip over a couple of comments here. There's so many coming in, but thank you for being so active. Casey said the second round she hit Emily so hard and Emily could not recover. Yeah, I could see that. I definitely could see that. I think that Casey just knew she had to up it in that second game. Like no one's actually pushed Casey yet. And it was like, there's that famous saying, no one knows how good they're going to be on a fight until they get knocked in the face. And that's what happened to Casey. And she's got that fighter's mentality. So hats off to her for standing up and getting it done in this episode. I'm trying to see if there was anything else that sort of stood out that we haven't spoken about here in this episode. My hot takes here for this episode is that Troy is proving himself as a badass, and I'm not just saying it because Troy is in the live. I think Troy could be the new Derek. He should be on the main show. The producers should phone him, get him back out there. I love the fire Troy had in his belly towards the end here and how open and brutal he was in the confessionals about the fact that, you know, he was going to go for Emily. He's gonna take her out of the game. I really enjoyed seeing that side of him because he was very calm throughout most of the season. Jordan and Kaz definitely going into the end game, I think is going to be very difficult to beat, especially since Jordan has made peace with Kaz. They seem to be in a good place with each other. You need that cohesion going into a final, and Jordan is a beast. Kaz is going to be able to run with him. I think she also definitely redeemed herself a bit here in the puzzle part of it, and with the math that she had to help with. I think she was the one who sorted out the whole puzzle, and then Jordan just sort of worked off that. So it shows that, you know, she can do it, and that we shouldn't be looking in too much in her doing extremely bad on that first math puzzle that they did. Danny and Tori, love Danny, but I do think he's anchored to Tori this season. And Tori, I don't know, like something's just not right with her. Like she's more worried about Jordan and what he's not telling her at the end game when it shouldn't matter as much than actually just going out there and winning. Like I'm a bit worried for that. I don't know how Danny's going to do going up against Jordan. I know he didn't want Jordan in the final, but seeing him there, it's going to be tough. So I think Troy and Casey, in my mind, they're the pair that I'm looking out for to challenge Jordan and Kaz the most. They're the most battle-hardened, having gone in so many eliminations recently. They've had a lot of opportunity to work on their teamwork. They basically did 2 dailies almost every single day because they had to do the daily and then also the elimination, which gave them double the amount of time to practice. But they are going into this final with a disadvantage because they just came off an elimination. So it's going to be tough for them. They don't get any recovery time to sleep overnight and get ready for the next day. They have to go straight into it. So that's going to definitely come into play. And then Theo and Sarah, like I just don't know where to place them. Like as a team, I know they won this one, but they were struggling to do this puzzle. And if they didn't have the help of Kaz and Jordan, I don't know if they would have gotten it. I know Theo can run. I think he's good at that. I know Sarah's not too bad at puzzles, and she can. Was kind of, in some ways, even though I'm a big Sarah stan, I have to say she was kind of lucky to win her season with so many people falling out in front of her. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out here. Let's have a last couple of reads here through some of the comments that are coming in. Amaya saying, Jay and Michelle think too far ahead while also not thinking things out. Yeah, and I think Michelle's too emotional. Like she gets very emotional about certain things. And I don't think that, you know, this is where Sarah and Danny was like, we don't want to get emotionally involved. We want to make clear decisions. And Sarah didn't get emotionally involved until Emily was her only option at the end. So some people will say, well, she did get, but it's the end game. It's hard. It's always, at some point, it's going to catch up to you. I feel like Michelle gets very emotional from the start, which is not good. And Jay's a little bit sporadic in his strategy. Doesn't seem like anybody really trusts him. Kitty saying Troy is a beast and tough to beat. Yes, Troy's been awesome this season. Give it up for Troy. Jacob says Troy has quickly become a favorite of mine. Yes, we need more Troy fans out there so we can get Troy back on the season. AJ is saying this season showed way more of Danny's personality, even but now I'm like, yes, bring him back. Yeah, I'm the same. I wasn't on the Danny train for Survivor. I was always like, I'm biased as hell. Like I know my own biases, and as soon as a Survivor player goes and plays the challenge, I'm going to support them. I don't care who it is. I'm going to support them. And Danny was like, automatically, he's part of my tribe going into the challenge. But like even in the season that he won, it was like, he didn't really give me much, but I was happy for him. This season, he's been fighting. He's been like very vocal. I've been loving what he's been doing. He's been a breakout superstar for me this season. So it'd be a shame if we don't get to see more of him in the future. I like Danny, but I still don't get it. Danny seems awesome, man. I'd love to go have a barbecue with Danny. Danica is saying, I like Danny better last season. This season, he seems unhappy. Yeah, it's sad to see him not enjoying his time out there. But I really like the fact that he was being the voice of reason this whole season. Like he was basically pointing out in my opinion, a lot of the things on the show that's not great with the friendship stuff and, not making strategic decisions, not voting out the person that potentially could take the money from you in the end. Like there's a lot of things I found myself agreeing with Danny more than disagreeing with him. I was just saying, really, I barely noticed him before he won out of nowhere. Yeah, he was very quiet. I mean, the only thing he said, Asia, that whole season was Kiki this, Kiki that. And I feel like he's going to go back to Kiki and say, why did you tell me to hook up with or connect with Tori this season? Because Tori did not help my game whatsoever. Dedika is saying Troy is used to that. They did the same thing on his season. Where are you going to be in Florida? I am currently in Orlando, and I will be in Tampa as well. Then I'm going to go to the Bahamas, and then I'm coming back up this way before I go through to Canada. So predominantly between Orlando and Tampa is the main areas that I'm going to be. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So far, it's been awesome. The weather is great over here. I've even gotten a little bit burnt today, which is great. Get a little bit of color. Amaya saying Tori seems like she isn't there. She needs a break. Even Jordan said she should never do more than 3 shows in a row. I think that should just be standard for everybody, not to do more than 3 shows in a row. BBG95 says Michelle is good socially and physically, but she never been good at mastering strategy. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's her thing. She needs that person there that she can bounce off almost. And Jay was not that person. Like I feel like if Michelle and Sarah played on the same season, she would do well. Or with one of these people that is better strategically in the game. But like I said, she gets too emotionally attached. Maya saying Sarah lack partner chemistry. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird. Like I don't get that relationship well, and I think it's because they just haven't shown us much of them. Reality, realness. Chantel, welcome in the live, says okay. So you need to settle the score between myself and Drew. In what order do you think these 4 teams will complete the final? Okay, so I've got Jordan and Kaz as the favorites for this. I just think that they're going to be tough to beat. The whole thing this season was we need to take Jordan out before the final, and he got there, and Kaz is not bad. And I think that we saw Kaz and Jordan make up before the final for a reason, because we needed to see their chemistry working prior to going into the end. And Jordan's got one of the best hit rates in the season's history. So, why would you bet against the guy? Second, I've got Troy and Casey, because I feel like they're more battle hardened, and they've, not only done dailies together, but also eliminations, which has given them extra time to work on their team chemistry. Third, I've got Danny and Tori. And I think last, I've got Theo and Sarah. I just feel like Theo and Sarah, we haven't seen much from them. So that's my 4. Be interesting to know where you guys are sitting on that as well. Asia says, I agree, Emma. I actually like Tori, but I think she needs a break at this point. It's a little sad she can't even play the game now. Yeah, and she even does podcasts about it, so she's constantly in it. Danny McRae, hey, welcome to the live. Always great to have you here as well. Just so you know, Danny, while you're here, absolutely loved your season so far. You've been great this season. I think that you brought attention to a lot of things that have been broken in the game for quite a long time. And I think it's a good thing for the show. I hope they realize that some of the things you pointed out and being the voice of reason out there is a good thing. And hopefully, myself, Angel Cake, and Reality Realness get to talk to you after the season, because I'm sure there's a lot you could share about the show and your experience. We'd love to have you on. And congratulations, definitely, for making the finals back to back. That's not easy to achieve. Well done. Dolores says, Chris, you're only an hour away from me. I'm in Melbourne. Welcome to Florida. Well, it's great. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm enjoying it here at the moment. People have been really friendly. Yes, everybody says hello to Danny. Before Danica. For some reason, it's like I always go into before Danny, but I know it's Danica. Watch out for the afternoon rainstorms. They can get bad. Really? Okay. I'll look out for that. Monsieur, the Kiki stories. Yeah, there's been no Kiki stories this season. I think it would have been confusing. Just have film it. Yep. Thank you, my man Troy. What's up, man? Hope all is well. Yeah. Troy's in the chat as well. Amaya, not taking breaks because your perception of reality dwindle. Dolores, oh my goodness, Danny is in the room. Is it possible to be starstruck in the chat? I'm kind of loving it because Danny was always my favorite. Danny's been doing great this season. Troy saying all is well, loving you in it this season. It's awesome to have both of you on at the same time. Everybody's going crazy because we got 2 players here in the live. This has been a great live, everyone. I hope it worked. Obviously, we didn't have Kahuna here for this recap and review for this episode, but I try to answer as many of the comments as I can, give you guys as many of the opinions as I have. I've really been enjoying this season. I know that for those that are fans of the legends of the game, which I'm not saying I'm not, but I do think that this has kind of shown them that there's a few things about bringing the same people back over and over again that have kind of broken the game to a certain degree. So I wouldn't mind seeing more strong MVPs like Danny, like Sarah, Troy, people that are standing up to the house, get them in there, mix it up a little bit for season 39 so we can see new legends being created in the show. So that's my takes here for this episode, talking about the latest episode. I can't wait to hear everybody's thoughts in the finale, to hear what will happen at the end and to see who's going to win this show. I think that, like I said, Jordan and Kaz is going to be tough to beat in the end. I think they should have taken him out before this, but obviously there's been many people that have been protecting Jordan. None so bigger than Tori herself, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it breaks out. I'm very excited to see. We'll probably have Kahuna hopefully back by next week so we can talk about it. We'll have to get at some point the crew of myself, Angel Cake, and Reality of Realness all together so we can give our final thoughts on this season. I can't wait to talk to everybody. I hope that the live worked out in the way that we were doing it. It was a little bit impromptu compared to how we normally do the lives here, but it's been great talking to everybody. Everybody's been phenomenal in asking questions, taking part in it. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, hitting the like button, putting on the notification bell. It is the best way to be notified when we're going live. Also, when you help the channel grow and we get more people subscribed to it, we can reach out to a lot of the great people like Troy, who's been on the channel before, Danny, who's just in here now, which I'd love to have Danny on at some point if he's willing to talk on the channel as well. We can reach out to more of these players and get them on for some exit interviews and get their thoughts on what it was like to play in this season. Kahuna is saying, so we got Troy, Danny, Drew, and Chantel in the chat, and this is the episode I miss. Yeah. What an episode to miss, right, Kahuna? The nullified take, I'm just north of Orlando. Wow. So many people so close here. Cool live, guys. Have a good night. Yes, same to you, Jane. Thank you so much for doing the back-to-back lives as well. Asia's saying, we love you, Kahuna. Get well soon. Yeah, Kahuna is going to get up. He's going to get the vitamin C's in him, and he's going to be good. Thank you so much, Angel Cake, also for being here for the whole live. Really, really been so great talking to everybody. Catch you guys next week. This has been a great live, and thank you. Bye.